There we go. Okay.
So, hi everybody, welcome. I'm Jen Kretzer. I'm the Director of Climate Initiatives at the Wild Center Science Museum in Northern New York. I haven't been on Clean in a little while. I've had a conflict with this particular time, but I'm very happy to be here today and connect with all of you. And I'm wondering, because we are a kind of a small group, if we wouldn't mind doing a quick round of introductions and kind of where you're calling from and what org you're with, if that's okay. It would be great. I always love connecting with people and I've missed it. So maybe I'll toss it to you first, Gina.
Yeah, I am Gina. I am the Clean Program Coordinator. I work with Katie at Ceres, the Cooperative Institute for Research in Environmental Sciences at CU Boulder. However, I work remotely from Vermont, so I'm on the East Coast. And yeah, excited to chat about AGU with everyone. I'll popcorn it over to Mark.
Hi, everyone. Mark Banage. I am with a small nonprofit called Make Knowledge here in California, although I split my time between Bay Area and Philadelphia. And I guess that's good. Give it Carrie.
No, you've got it.
Okay.
I'm Carrie Herndon. I'm the curriculum specialist with National Center for Science Education. We are based in Oakland, California, but I am out of Costa Rica. I am going to popcorn it over to Melissa.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Melissa. I'm calling from Boulder, Colorado this morning, and I work for the UCAR Center for Science Education. I'm an education designer there. How about James?
Great, thanks, Melissa. So I'm Jim Callahan. I will be taking part in AGU virtually, representing and working with quite several. Climate Club DC and Lowell School in Washington, DC, as well as Mobile Climate Science Labs, which is bi-coastal in California, as well as DC, Maryland, Virginia, and it's gonna be with a lot of students. So thank you. So how about Deborah? Because I always want to make sure we're bringing in everybody, right? Frank, we know we're going to cover you, so I don't mean just going for new folks.
Hi, James. That's so kind of you. I'm always shy to join in. I used to work in science editing for Scholastic and places like that, and I am playing with making a science toy. And I think your group is wonderful to keep in touch with climate education topics generally. So Frank, or no, Katie is the next one.
I don't think either of us have gone. I'll go, Frank, if you're okay with that. I'm Katie Boyd. I use she, her pronouns. I'm based on the traditional lands of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Ute in the Boulder, Colorado area. I'm the Clean Program Manager, and then we're based at Ceres Environment. As Gina mentioned, the Ceres is an environmental cooperative institute with NOAA and CU Boulder, and we're in the education and outreach group there. So, Frank, go ahead.
Yeah, nice to be with you all. Frank Niepold, NOAA Climate Program Office. I'm the Climate Education Coordinator over here, and calling in from my home, and happy to be exploring AGU topics. So is there anybody else who hasn't gone yet? I can't see the full screen.
Nope. I think everybody's gone, Frank. And our topic today, of course, is AGU and seeing who's going and what topics are relevant, either going or presenting virtually, seeing what topics are relevant and maybe some coordinating. I don't know how much has been on the ground because I've missed a few of these calls. So if anybody would like to jump in, and or if there's a schedule that's been created yet of the education topics that'll be presented. Do we know, Gina? Or
I can jump in on that. Yep. We are hoping we have some interns at Series actually working on that right now, and I'm hoping it'll be done by the end of the day as a tip sheet, a list of relevant sessions. So I'm planning to send out that list to the Clean listserv, hopefully by the end of at the end of today, or hopefully by tomorrow at the very latest. So we have some Clean sponsored sessions, but then some sessions that would just be relevant to anyone in climate education. Some things to highlight are, let's see, let me pull up my list here.
I'm also happy, Gina, to share that with the NOAA Environmental Literacy Programs listserv, because there's a lot, I know there's a lot of people that aren't on this call, but are in that cohort of projects that will also be attending to help sort of cross promote and hopefully get people connected that are either that are going to be on site in particular.
That would be really great.
Really awesome.
Sure.
So there is a Clean poster session that is online bright and early Monday from 8 to 9 a.m. local time, so it'd be central. And then we also have 2 other sessions. There's a professional development session, exploring professional development innovations to engage educators and the future workforce in climate solutions. That's going to be on Tuesday around midday.
And is that a hybrid session?
Yes. So hybrid will be Tuesday 11 to 12:30 Central, and the in-person is going to be 1:45, starting at 1:45 Central. So yeah, we have that, and then we also have a resilience session happening. I can pull up the time for that too. What I want to say is that I will send all this information in the listserv, but one really good way to find all of this is by searching the AGU section for the agenda with the keywords climate empowerment. Put those in the chat. So all of our sessions that are Clean sponsored are kind of indexed with that term. It's climate empowerment and then a colon and then whatever the name of the session is. So if you want to see any of the Clean sessions, they're climate empowerment in the title. I am also doing a poster session on the Excel Summit that we did in September. That's also going to be on Monday. And then Frank is doing a union session. You want to say anything about that, Frank?
Yes, please tell us all about that.
Well, I don't, since I'm on my phone, because I'm trying to have some tea, because my house got cold. I don't have the exact name, but it's on Thursday afternoon, late in the day, if I remember right. And we're really looking at how climate education and related fields supports community climate action. And if you have that session there, if I remember right, Anna, you're Gold from Series is one of the presenters in that union session.
Yeah,
But there's
she is.
Yep.
What does that mean, union session? Like, what's that mean?
So
Exactly.
for those who aren't up on the lingo of AGU, there are all these different focuses like volcanology and global change, and so there's a whole list of them. Like every part of the Earth system is in there as their own group, but education is now one of those groups. But you know, they set up new groups every now and then. There's a science and society one now, I think. But a union session is where you're looking at issues that cross a variety of those topic areas or sections. And so that's what a union session is. So it's really cross topical sessions, and they're a different stream than the ones that are by each topic area. Does that help you, Jen?
Mm-hmm.
This is the link I'll put in the chat for that particular session.
Thanks. I was just trying to find that actually.
Yeah, and we have, so all of these AGU sessions that we're mentioning are all like, they're clean partners. So we have, obviously Frank, Deb, and Haley are on that, that one he just mentioned. And then we have folks from Climate Generation, Eric Havel's on one of those sessions, and a few other folks are involved. So they're from different people in the Clean Network, which is good.
One thing to consider in this work is, I mean, the Clean Network have been going to AGU as a place where we come together for many, many years. I don't remember the first time we all kind of convened at AGU, but it's like 2007, somewhere in that range. So it's a long time, in a variety of incarnations. That said, I mean, I remember the version 2 of climate literacy, a lot of the work to get that done for March of 2009 was done at the 2008 AGU meeting. So, I mean, you know, this has been a meeting for that space for us for a long time. But where was I going with this topic, this point? Oh, what's always interesting is these sessions that we put out that are like by clean people that we put out and convene it. There's these people that aren't in our community that show up in these sessions and have been doing really interesting work that are never connected to the rest of us. So one of the powerful opportunities that comes with AGU every time is for those who aren't behind the paywall, widening our community at AGU, where we see and go to talks and meet people on the floor in poster sessions, like inviting them into the fellowship we have in the Clean Network is an important kind of shared responsibility for those who are there from Clean, to widen our circle and grow the community, because there's some amazing work that happens that we have no idea about. This is how we learn it.
Right. I see a couple hands up. Yeah, I'm not sure who put their hand up first, but Katie and then Jim.
I think Jim's hand was actually up first. Jim, if you want to go first,
go ahead,
you can go
Jim.
ahead.
Katie, I always like to hear your voice, so I think I'm gonna hold off for a minute.
So polite.
I just wanted to clarify. So yeah, Gina put in the link to the search and so Frank's session will come up as well. She put the link in directly to that, but Frank's session will come up in that search because he's also titled it Climate Empowerment, which is awesome. So that's really the best way to find the Clean specific sponsored sessions, and those will go out in that the sheet that Gina and the students are putting together, along with, and I just wanted to also mention, we are putting together a couple of networking sessions. So just FYI for folks who have done AGU in the past, we don't have a Clean workshop this year. They've changed the workshops, and education section doesn't get workshops anymore of their own in the same way. Like you can still do workshops, but they're like through AGU level workshops. And those are, I don't know if you all saw in registration, they're often paid and they're much stricter about them than education was. And we just felt like it wasn't a good fit for us anymore because we like to have it as open as possible. We actually, if you remember, had folks outside who weren't attending at AGU sometimes come to that workshop. So we're not hosting a workshop this year, but we are still going to host 2 various sort of get-togethers, networking sessions. Obviously the Clean poster session in person is always a nice place to do that. Unfortunately, the virtual component of that is happening at 8 a.m. Monday morning. So woo, we'll all be up bright and early, 7 a.m. my time, which is when I usually feed my baby. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna balance those 2 things. But so yeah, the poster session is another great place for that. But we will have, we don't have anything on the agenda for next week's Clean call. And overall, I thought it didn't interrupt too many of any of the Clean sessions, but too many of the other sessions. It's hard to find time virtually that is going to work for everybody. So we just decided to do a virtual get together during the Clean call next week on Tuesday. And then Gina's organizing an in-person get together Monday afternoon, evening, whenever the sessions end on Monday. And so just watch out for those in that email that Gina is going to send as well. Those will be in the document that has the different sessions as well. And I thought I'd just mention that while we're on the topic of like all the various Clean sponsored things that are happening and Clean's presence at AGU, which, as Frank mentioned, is vast and historical.
Thanks so much, Katie, for that context. Jim?
Yes, thank you, Jen. So looking at the constellation in the sky of AGU that where Clean Network is, want to make sure we have another star in there. I don't know if we're like the Pleiades or whatever constellation we want to say, but I say the Pleiades because stars are always emerging. We are birthplace of stars. We're not just old stars that are slowly dying off. The largest section of all of AGU is actually bright stars. It is middle and high school students who are gaining real practice in doing science papers and doing papers about action on climate change. And the largest contingent in bright stars are students who are taking action on climate change. And I encourage to see themselves as part of the Clean Network. So the largest section with the largest delegation is doing climate action. And that's 3 posters this year. And it's like, there's not room enough for all the co-authors. There's so many co-authors who are contributing to the posters. Things like, making the Capitol more energy efficient, presenting at the Natural History Museum, making the energy efficiency of the Natural History Museum go up, dealing with being ignored as young women of color and not being stopped. I mean, these are all issues they're doing. In addition, they're crossing back over into the things that Gina and Frank and Katie have been, because we have posters in there that are bringing them back into that. I'll try and wrap up here, but I think another aspect of what the students are encouraged to do and will be doing very much this year is actively taking part in the other parts of AGU. Atmospheric sciences, global change, even planetary sciences. We have some kids who are young women who want to be astrophysicists, so they're going to be going to astrophysics. But when they talk with the scientists and they engage and they do chat, they're going to be saying how they take this science and they apply it, they use it in climate change. So how does the James Webb Space Telescope help us fight climate change? That's fairly intriguing to people, and it's something very real. But also, it's very much something that AGU believes in. But I think the Clean Network practices in a way is young women, young people in general, people of all ages, and people of color are at AGU taking action on climate change, doing education, and are there to present and be taken seriously. So I think we all can be proud, all of us in the Clean Network, that we are fighting for diversity, equity, and inclusion, not just in our words, but with our actions all year round. And AGU is a chance for the students to put that in scientific papers. They're very excited. It's really cool. And there's a meeting tonight, by the way, of the Bright Stars students from all across the country and around the world. And sorry, I'm going to wrap. Another thing that AGU allows me as a mentor, and Liz Bullock is the teacher I work with at Lowell most closely as a mentor, is to give students real practice in being taken seriously. Go into the chat, ask Frank questions, have Frank come talk to us. That is so meaningful when Frank came and talked to us. I mean, that just was such a big deal that they're learning how to make colleagues and be taken seriously. And if someone looks at them and they say, this is a young Vietnamese, person who's an immigrant from Vietnam, so what do we care about you? Is they find a way to say, well, look what we're doing. I don't think you want to ignore us. There's nothing like experience. So Frank, the thing of having some climate warriors who are really experienced by the time they leave middle school, let alone by the time they leave to be undergraduates, we want to make sure we're doing our part in seeing that happens. But it all is only possible because the Clean Networks make so much possible. So thank you all. And I want to express that as the last word for the students. Thank you all for what you make possible for us to do. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. I was curious, Melissa or Kari or Deb, are any of you also heading to AGU and or presenting virtually? No.
I'm
can-
not attending this year, but
Yeah.
a couple other people from SIAD are, John Risky, our director, and Becca Hathaway will be there. And I helped to write a poster, but
Great. That's great. I'm not heading. I unfortunately this year it's like did not work for me, but I'm gonna present virtually and hopefully attend some of these other sessions. So super helpful to sort of hear who's going to be there. I'll be sad to miss out, but I'm excited to attend as much as I can online. Katie and then Gina.
Mine's a
ahead, Gina.
question. I'm curious if people who are attending virtually know, like, I'm pretty sure the oral sessions are hybrid and similar to how they were run last year. I think that there's an in-person poster session and then there's the virtual poster sessions. So those have been split basically. For the virtual poster sessions though, like for my oral session, AGU sent me a link to like attend that virtually for the one I'm convening, but I don't think I got the same thing for the poster session. And in the last couple of years, the poster sessions were like, if you wanted to do an online discussion, you had to like set it up yourself. But this year it was like automatic. AGU seemed to set that up, but like I haven't gotten a link for that. Are people presenting posters virtually? Have you received links for your sessions?
Mine's an oral session, so I'm not doing a poster this year, Katie, so I'm sorry. I don't have an answer. I got a very long email about uploading my oral presentation and like what I have to do that. Like that's a whole thing. But like I don't know anything about the poster session stuff.
Jim,
Anybody
I think,
else?
are you doing a virtual poster? Did you get any?
Yeah, so I think how about I answer with what I can be useful with, and I'll say the stuff that I'm useless on right now. For the Bright Stars, which is where I'm putting a lot of my focus immediately, is evolution that's gone on there. Is in the past there's 150 to 200 posters going on, and have that a session that's pretty worthless in terms of, well, how do you go talk to 150 people, right? And you're sitting at your poster and there's 149 others. Well, they've made it now that there are 9 separate discussions, so that I get it, like there's 9 posters in a session, so it's a manageable amount of select and talk and all that. So that's the thing. As far as participating in the Clean Network, let's say I'm going to go under the umbrella of what Gina described as the sessions that the Clean Network more happens, where the other 2 posters we have are when, honestly, I'm kind of going to be late on just catching up and seeing what's going on. So you know more than I do right now how it works.
I'll look into that with AGU too. I just was curious if someone here knew. So thank you all. Gina, I think you put your hand up after.
You're muted, Gina.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to ask Jen what is your session that you're doing?
My session, hang on. Let's see. I just had it up a hot second ago. Hold on.
Sorry,
I'm sorry. I put the link in the chat, but it's around informal. Anna is one of the conveners.
Oh,
and
yes.
then also Carrie from NOAA and
Yeah,
Eric.
that's the
Pavel.
resilience.
It's the resilience.
Yes.
Clean,
I didn't know if you,
Clean and ELP folks came together to sort of joint run that session. Yeah.
I didn't know if you put the link in the chat as you found the session and people knew if there was another session that you were doing. But that makes sense. Thank you.
No, just that. So I just put that one in, but I was kind of combing and looking simultaneous. Yeah. So sorry, you caught me out.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, what other sessions should we drop in the chat?
Yeah.
Frank has his hand up. Go ahead, Frank.
So I'm moving around to keep the dogs from barking in my room. So one of the things I'm wondering about is this virtual participation. If I remember right, everyone who is attending virtually, there's a paywall here, right?
Yep.
Only people who can attend these sessions are people who are registered to attend these sessions. There's a different price for people who are virtual only, but still it's non-trivial amount of money.
Well, if you're an educator, informal or formal, it's $50, but you also have to be a member of AGU, whatever that price is right now, 50 or 75. I can't remember it,
Right.
because you had to be a member in order to submit a paper as well. So you do have to register, you have to provide proof of employment, you have to go through the whole process as if you were going to AGU, and it's the same amount whether you're virtual or not, or in person. So it's 50,
Right.
it used to be free, now it's $50 for
Right.
this community. I would think that everyone here would qualify for that.
So where I'm going with my question, just to confirm that, is that I do think those of us who are attending really need to do an extra effort this year to bring forth any excellent work, new people, new initiatives back into the community. And, you know, Gina, if I could nominate you as the recipient of, hey, I caught this really important thing. Why doesn't so-and-so is a member? You know, we as clean members don't know who's in clean. Like, it's only with this recent work we were doing on that paper that we ever actually knew who are clean members. Forever, we never knew that. So I wouldn't assume anybody knows who's in clean, but we could know who should be in clean, or whose work should be brought forth. And whether that's virtual, like Jen, I'm assuming you're going virtually because you've got to talk. So thereby you'll be there virtually. But I think, you know, all of us as we, you know, there's in a panel and then there's other people around us that we get to know. I think we should assume they're not in clean and their work is not known to the wider community. Because it also brings us back to the experiment of a cell, was that we started looking at like, oh, wow, we could actually map who's doing what, who's about to do something, and could they collaborate if they knew each other were working in similar spaces. Same principle applies here. So I think, you know, given I think only a few of us on this call are actually attending, it's, you know, it's our responsibility or possibility to help others who can't benefit from what's going on there.
Yes, and I would also encourage, you know, Frank, I think you're connected to the NOAA ELP network, because there's a lot of folks in that network that are the NOAA funded projects that are not necessarily in clean or a part of clean. So I think the more cross pollination, the better. Like I said, I'm happy to send out any information around meetups or anything to that particular group. And I think Carrie was trying to sort of see who was going to AGU from that group to maybe coordinate something. So just, again, like encouraging that kind of cross pollination, I think is so, as you're talking about, is so critical, and kind of bringing everyone in, because we need more across the network. And then with AGU, like if you're doing a virtual presentation, you have to record your presentation, like you're not doing it live, but show up for the questions. So I'll be doing, like Katie and I both need to create a file, record ourselves talking to ourselves, and then send it into AGU. And then we are allowed to show up at the last second for like a minute of questions, I guess, or something. I'm not totally clear how it all will work. I'm sure it will all work out fine, but that's their intent. I see, Jim, you have your hand up too. Katie, were you going to say something about the oral about the
Yeah,
virtual?
I actually don't have an oral this year, so I don't know all the details because I haven't gotten those
Oh,
specific
okay,
emails.
sorry, I
But
misunderstood.
last year, I think I have the poster virtually. But last year, I think it was, I don't remember the exact timings, you're right, but you got like a couple of minutes to like do a quick summary of your talk, and then like a couple of minutes for questions. So I think total you had like 5 minutes for both things or something. Like it's like really fast. But
It's
it was
really
like,
fast.
yeah, but it was a couple of minutes, I think, something like that. I don't know what it is this year for sure, though, but I was just saying that's what I remember from last
Jim.
Right. So a couple points. Thank you, Jen. A couple points running with what people are saying, both with the theme of encouraging others to be inclusive or helping to bring more members of the Clean Network into AGU and for recognition. One is in this case, particularly for Deborah, but this applies to other people, is making sure that people know that the entry point to AGU, I think Jen put it well. It's not nothing. And it does take some time, but it's not as high as $500 or some great, the full amounts. It's like $100. And AGU is a pretty good place to get to meet and see people. It's a great place to be put on the map and be taken seriously. I mean, it's a thing that you can use as a reference. And I just think maybe Deborah to consider that, whether to be recognized as part of the clean community and part of a real part of education and action. We want you to be taken seriously, so that it's a good place for that. So the related one is a small contribution to the point that I think Frank was making of helping to bring in our members, the Clean Network members, to be recognized, to take advantage of this community. Our small contribution is have done for 4 years now. One of the posters that I will do, that I'm doing, is devoted to showing a consortium of organizations that are doing action in education on climate change. Not to, well, of course, it's going to mention the Clean Network, or it's going to list the Clean Network all the time, but specifically oriented to bringing in those that would not otherwise be recognized in a poster, but really should be doing that. I think we would agree that, and again, with what Jen was saying, or Frank puts as the paywall, the work to be at AGU is nothing, it's something, right, to do. But to me, it's not so much the money, but the time and the efforts you have to do to have a poster. And it's just a poster, but that's substantial. Every time you think you've gone through a hoop, they've got another hoop and another hoop and another hoop, right? And yet the poster stays up forever now, or at least it did last year, right? So anyway, there's organizations like the Clio Institute who gave our presentation last week. As far as I know, they have they're not trying to do a poster, but I'm getting permission from Carolyn and Diego. You're a perfect example of someone who should give you the introduction and maybe encouragement next time you'll have your own. It's not like you have to go, we don't have to be your middle person. But anyway, it's just a small contribution on that. So if there's others that want to do it, I consider NCSE to be our big sister, not we're equals or we're your big sister. But I assume that you have a poster, but if you don't, of course, we'd love to, we love to be associated with you. So just know that can be an entry point to and you can have this reference point that as you're talking to people who say, well, yeah, we're in a poster and here it is. Here's the link. So UCAR, of course, you're just exhibitors, right? I mean, you're a percentage of AGU. So.
There's definitely a lot of UCAR and INCAR at AGU, like all of the scientists. And also another thing that's kind of interesting is we have a SOARS program. It's a bunch of proteges. So these are all like undergraduates, and I think they're all undergraduates. I don't think any of them some of them are actually graduate students as well, but most of them are undergrads, and they all have a chance to share, present the work that they've been doing as part of our SOARS program. So that's kind of cool to check out too. I think that's later in the week though, like Wednesday and Thursday. Most of their work.
So Melissa, one of the interesting things about AGU, as most know, is that at the NOAA booth, about 50% of the people who step into that NOAA booth on the exhibit floor are students who are looking to their next step. 50% of the people walking into that booth, that's what they're doing. So there's a very strong contingent, but most of it's higher education, and that the higher education part of the Clean Network isn't as robust as the other parts, right? Informal and K-12 and place-based is much more robust than higher education. So, but that is definitely a strong part of the AGU space. I mean, Jim, I appreciate the work you're doing to bring the K-12 age students more strongly into this space. But I definitely think that CPO, my office, we've been funding SOARs forever. Not all of it, we just have a portion of it, but it's a really important part of the work of AGU. And if you don't know about that part, is that wider continuity of work part, and these are some amazing people. So, if you get a chance to kind of see that program activity, it's an important part of the wider effort for sure.
I just realized that one of our youth advisory board members is going to be at AGU. Maybe I can connect Gina and Frank. Frank, you've met Andrew. Yeah, so I can make sure you guys all get connected.
Well, to that end, Gina, have we chosen a time? Maybe I missed it at the beginning. Have we chosen a time and place for the gathering of the clean community at AGU?
Yes, so you haven't missed an email. I'm waiting until our tip sheet is done to send it out, but we will meet at 6 p.m. On Monday at the conference center is the Hyatt, or the McCormick Place, and part of the conference is at the Hyatt Regency McCormick Place. So we're meeting at the Arc Bar is what it's called at that hotel. So at 6 p.m.
It looked like it was right across the street from the convention center. So
Yes.
Gina and I found that this morning and thought it'd be a good place to meet up. I think some of the AGU events are happening in that hotel too.
It's also connected by like a skywalk to the Hilton that's right there as well. So it's very easy to get to.
That's really good to know. And also, thank goodness. It'll be so cold.
Great. Thank you for helping Andrew navigate. Gina, you and Andrew can navigate first timers together.
Yes, he saw my name in the agenda or the program and reached out. So
I also noticed they don't have the public affairs thing anymore. It's called Science and Society. One of the program topics used to be public affairs, and that's where a lot of the Indigenous sessions would land, but this year it's called Science and Society, and there's a few climate justice sessions in there, so you may want to check those out as another topic area. Just, sometimes we get a little siloed in our education sector, which is where most of those things lie, but that does cross over into others, and that's where I've found some really great sessions, and I think it could be very helpful just to make sure that you're looking across those sessions. Hi, Emily. Thanks for joining us.
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry, I'm eating my breakfast and listening, but I'm glad to see you all.
Yes, no problem. We're just been having an informal call around AGU, and later, kind of the end of today, Gina's going to be sending out a list of relevant sessions to the clean community, as well as meetup opportunities at the conference next week, and just making sure that everyone has a chance to connect and build community and build relationship, which I think is what so much of this type of conference is about.
But both virtual and in-person opportunities for.
Yes, virtual and in person. So definitely, and Katie, just to reiterate that there will be a clean call next week, but it will be like an AGU virtual meetup, like checking in, like how are things going, sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, great.
That's what we're planning for, is people who aren't attending AGU can obviously join as well. And that's part of having it that time. Then we can connect even if you're not at AGU. But yeah, that was the idea, was to have sort of a virtual version of our get together that we would have in person. And I'll mention, I will second the whole Science and Society. I think, Gina, we sent it to the students to just look through education. But if I remember correctly, I think I found a couple of Science and Society ones that I added to our list. So yeah, that's another good section to look in. I will say because they've changed that section, some of the Indigenous science stuff I know has ended up in education in the past, but I think Science and Society is another great place for a lot of that work to come about too. That's another good place to look. So yeah. Sorry, I just totally jumped in and Jim had his hand raised, but these were just relevant to what Jem was just saying. So
Sorry, go ahead, Jen. Okay to go ahead, Jen. Yeah.
Oh, yes,
So,
yes.
so Katie, of course, everything's great. Let's see, to have us all be on the know, this is sharing information on the know of what it's like to be attending the conference virtually if you're in K-12, right? So if we have for essentially adults who legitimately are working with us, so Deborah, I don't think you're gonna have any trouble. I think it's roughly about $100 to be able to go, right? And filling out some forms and responding to the mails and things like that. And things like that. So it's not, that's where it is. For K-12, for middle school and high school students, here's what it is. It is free. You don't have to be a member, and there's no charge at all to attend. You have to fill in a form, and you have to show some evidence that you are actually registered as a middle or high school student. And some of our students are really good about turning in something and getting a letter, and some show their reg card or do kind of a cruddy job. But AGU has never even second guessed any of our applications so far. So, obviously we don't want adults going in pretending to be a K-12 teacher, student. That's what they're looking for. So you can bring them in. So like if students who are part of climate summits, it's free. And it's good, and they won't. I think a lot of what is strong is due to AGU, but it's even more due to the programs that work with AGU. So the parts that do the Bright Stars, it's Stanford University, University of Texas, institutions in Hong Kong are doing a magnificent job to allow students to take part in AGU and feel not like they're going to get literally stepped on if they're walking around, or figuratively stepped on. I mean, there's a community of students working. There's social gatherings. So a student can come in and feel, look, there's 200 other students here, and I can talk to them. And then I can go up to, I like to use Ben Santer as the example. I can go up to the top climate scientists in the country and have a conversation with them. And by the way, I like to do it because I like to tell the students there's a lot of directions you can go to do something. You can become an action scientist, you can do things, but I need them to know who, when I say you could be the next Katie Boyd or Gina or Jen or Melissa or Carrie, I want them to know who these people are, and there's a chance to come in and talk with you. So, right, we have our heroes. The kids got to know who their heroes are. You're part of the hero list. So anyway, AGU is a good chance to come in and chat and to say, look, I got a badge too. I'm serious, which is, sorry, I'm going to go on one just a second. I've learned that in Washington, D.C., I'm a Californian, and I know it's hard to get into Cal or Berkeley, Cal or Stanford, right? That's where the bar is. In D.C., if you're in private schools, it's even harder to get into the high school you want. So the middle school students are looking for credentials and things that they've done. AGU helps, right? AGU helps to say, look, I presented a science conference, and then Sidwell Friends or something, the big progressive schools, they look at that. So anyway, just a bit of a thing of, we can bring our kids in, and I will say, sorry, one more. We can help contribute to not just talking about it, but doing it, that we're going to have young women, young people, and young people of color at AGU. That is something that needs to happen, and we can contribute to that. We are contributing to it. Sorry to go on.
Thank you, Jim. So I don't think I actually called for any other announcements at the beginning like I was supposed to. I'm sorry about that. If we don't have any other AGU related pieces, we could shift the last 10 minutes to any other announcements. I apologize. I should have done that right at the beginning of the meeting. Any other announcements or things happening that people would want to share out about? Thanks to Gina and Katie for any coordinating on getting any of those sessions coordinated, as well as informal and virtual and in-person meetups. I just dropped in a session that I saw that Kate Simmons is co-chairing a plenary. I was like, oh my God, she's one of the NOAA Environmental Literacy Grant Award. She's the ED at Nurture Nature Center in Pennsylvania and does some really cool climate change education and summits and community convenings. And that work is really worth checking out. Other announcements from the group? Anything else coming up as we wind up the year? I can share something. I guess just maybe this is a report out. We just had our first in-person big youth climate summit since the pandemic. That happened in November, which was super exciting for the Wild here at the Wild Center. We had 155 participants from schools, school districts, and youth groups from across the northern New York region. We also have seen a real uptick in summits happening. We're now over 150 summits in 22 states and 9 countries. So things are kind of like chugging right along on the summit side of youth summit side of things. And actually right after this meeting, we host a monthly meeting for folks to join. That anybody is open to anyone that are planning youth climate summits, interested in summits, want to hear about what it's all about. That happens every Tuesday, first Tuesday of the month at 3 p.m. So we have one happening today. If anybody would like to join, let me know and I can direct email you the link. And then so that happens every month. And then the other thing we're working on is in partnership with the World University Games. So they're the Olympics, and then there's the World Cup, and then there's the World University Games. So this is like a little bit lower on the ladder on this one, but so they're World Games that are just for university students that are held at different places around the world. This year they happen to be being held in Lake Placid, New York, in January. So they have a very strong intersectional theme of climate science, climate change, climate science, climate in the arts, as well as inclusion and diversity and equity. So we're a major partner on that initiative. It's happening for almost 10 days, 12 days in January. So we're gearing up for all kinds of big events here in the Lake Placid, greater Lake Placid region, on the intersection of winter culture, climate change, diversity, equity, inclusion, and sport. So that's kind of fun. That's coming up in January. Any other announcements that folks want to share?
Actually, Jen, do you mind putting the link in the chat? Is that the Save Winter?
Yep, that's the Save Winter event.
Great.
I'll share. We will be live streaming the event we're hosting here at the Wild Center on the 14th of January, which will be featuring Neil Patterson, who's the Assistant Director for the Center for Native People and the Native Peoples in the Environment out of Syracuse, as well as a youth panel on winter culture and sport. So we don't have that link yet, but that will be a live link, and that will be on Saturday, January 14th. So I'll share that out when I have it. It's cool. I mean, they are so focused on climate change. Like, it's pretty unbelievable. I've never seen a sporting event like this, with this, I mean, there's 1,500 volunteers alone for the event. I mean, it's like thousands and thousands of athletes. So we'll see how that all goes. But some of the crazy things that have happened is that they've been we're going to have a fleet of electric buses, but we actually don't have the infrastructure to charge all those electric buses. So they're like figuring out how to do all the balancing. Anyway, Emily, jump right in. I see you have your hand up. Welcome.
Hi. Well, thanks. You were asking for general announcements, and I don't know if it's an announcement or not, but I got what I've been prototyping for like the better part of the last year with the geospatial images for improving climate engagement regionally. I had a colleague in the UK, her name is Iman, repeat my method and then do her dissertation on it. And so if anybody wants a copy of that, her dissertation is finally available. So we have something that's an independent assessment from a different like physical place that's much more in depth than anything I had previously published on it. So if anybody wants that, that's now available.
That's wonderful, Emily. Congratulations. That sounds definitely that sounds great. I'd love a copy.
Okay, so what's the most efficient way to disperse it? I want to be like, can I just drop it in the chat? But I'm
You
not
could
sure.
you could drop it in the chat. You could, depending on how, you know, it's your
Okay.
call, but or send it out to
Okay.
the clean listserv if you want to share it widely. Like you could do any of those things. I say that, but I see Gina is nodding. So
Yes, I'm nodding my head because you can do that if you want to share it
I still
widely.
don't think I know how to use that interface effectively, Gina, to be totally candid, but I can email it to somebody and
It's totally fine. And someone else was asking about this, so I'll just say it because it is slightly confusing.
okay.
You have to join the Clean network. So I actually think I can check if you are,
Yeah.
but so all you have to do once you join the Clean network is send.
She is. I just checked. I have emilycorin@gmail.com.
Mhm.
So if you just send an email to the email I just put in the chat,
Okay.
it will send
That's
it
the
to everyone.
listserv, right?
Yep.
That will send it
And
out to the listserv. Yeah.
if you ever lose that, just know that I send these reminders every Tuesday morning that I send out to everyone to that email. So if you ever lose it, just look for one of my emails and copy that, the same email address.
So
And
I'll,
As I
I'll
mentioned
send
to
that both
Deborah,
the listserv. Oh, I'll send it both the listserv and Jim, I see you. I'll send it to your email as well.
and
Thanks, Emily.
as I mentioned to Deborah too, if you ever do have trouble sending to the listserv, email Gina or I, and we can either forward it or help you to remind you what the email is or whatever also.
Okay.
Emily, a question. Is your work
It is
some-
best if it comes from the person who's sending it though, because then like, I can't answer responses if people have questions about things. So that's why it's nice if you all can send it. But if you have trouble, just let us know. Sorry,
Emily?
Jim.
No problem. Emily, is your work something that's heading its way as a presentation or part of a session of the Clean Network? Are we going to be hearing more about it? I'm putting you on the spot.
I've talked about it here before. If you want me to pop on again, we can do an update.
Yeah.
I'd be presenting on it at AGU really briefly. I've spent like the last 4 months trying to prototype pieces of it with the World Health Organization. And I think that it's useful, but it's also, I can see like branching uses of it. And what they're going to do is going to be slower than anything we could theoretically do with it here. But I still don't have capacity. I mean, from my end, it's still being run by a small volunteer team. So we applied to and were accepted to the Thriving Earth Exchange, hoping that we were going to get some backup support from a researcher. But we're still like basically looking for the right match. So that's part of what I'll be just saying at AGU. It's like, hey, anybody, right? I mean, and I think that from my perspective, seeing some of the links going through the science museums and the classrooms would be the most efficient use for collecting regional visualizations of what climate action looks like on the ground currently. And so I think that this is an important part of that conversation. So I just want to make sure to hold these conversations open as we kind of figure out what's next.
If I might ask, is there, and forgive me for not remembering this from your last presentation, is there a place in this that new, like freshman undergraduates at Stanford who do imaging related to climate change would perhaps be able to connect with you? Yeah, because that's something we're looking to, I'm looking to say what you now that you're going to be at Stanford, how can you go up to that level and still be active in climate action?
Yeah, well, I'm still an affiliate at Stanford, and if they want to reach out, I would be happy to see where that goes. Yeah, more people are welcome.
Thank you.
I think that's it for me. I'll forward those emails. Anybody else?
Okay, well, it looks like, thanks, Emily. I think we are at the top of the hour. Thanks everybody for another helpful, clean session. Good luck to everyone heading to AGU or being a part of AGU. And I hope everybody has a great week. See you back here next Tuesday. Same
Thanks,
time.
everyone. Thanks,
Take
Jen,
care.
for facilitating.
Well, safe travels.
Thanks, Jen.
Bye all.